Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, which means that it is the day after the show. And I wanted to do kind of like a recap video on how the show went because I posted the video of our girls showing, and in the video it ended a little bit sad, with me quite disappointed and saying that I wasn't going to show again, which is not true because we're already planning our next show. Yeah, so I'm going to milk our big milkers that we got here and open everybody up, and then I'm going to touch on just kind of the whole experience, like what it was like getting ready, things that we wish that we had known before we started to get ready or before we went, things we wish we had, things we're super happy we had. And I also might make like a little list of things to bring, or things that we brought, and then also things we wish we brought to a show. So if you are going to your first show, maybe the list will help you guys a little bit. We are definitely not experts, but these are things that we saw other people bring, that other people recommended we brought, things that we brought that really helped. Yeah, so I'll make this quick, this milk session, and I'll talk to you guys about how everything went. I don't want to seem all rambled when I'm going over this, because there is a lot to go over. There's a lot of stuff that we did and a lot of steps along the way. So I'm going to start in sections, and I'm going to start with getting ready because that makes the most sense. So to get ready, we didn't need a CVI, which I believe stands for Certificate of Veterinary Inspection, for this show because it was local, so they didn't require it from us. If we were out of state, we would have had to get one. We do plan on maybe possibly going to an out-of-state show at the end of next month, so we will need a CVI for that. So getting started, the first thing would be to call your vet and set up a schedule for them to come out and do a CVI of your herd or the goats that you're showing, which just is basically saying that the vet approves that your goats look healthy and can be shown. Then you have all the other things, which it was stressful. It was, the whole experience in general was overall quite stressful. It was a lot of fun. I'll touch on that at the very end, and because it was really great. It wasn't all stressful, but we had to shave the goats, which went more smoothly than I thought it was going to. Hi, Moonspot. And the girls did quite well with it. They did not like their faces being touched at all, and they weren't too bad about their bodies. Udder area, back end, they weren't super happy about. But it didn't take too long. We did worry a little bit about them getting sunburnt, so I was out here lathering sunscreen on them for a few days after we did that. Milky Way did good. Lone Star did get a little bit of a sunburn down her back, so she had a little bit of skin peeling on her back when we showed up to the show. But other than that, they both looked really great. Trimming hooves. We also trimmed hooves, which they needed their hooves trimmed, but we did end up accidentally trimming Milky Way's back left hoof, I believe, a little too short. And we did it the day before the show, and we did it well enough so she was limping on her foot, which was just like, it was the worst. Greg was literally in tears. He was so sad. We were so afraid we weren't going to be able to bring her. We got some magic cushion, which is some stuff that they use for horses, and tried to kind of wrap her hoof up as well as we could. And then we were lucky enough that we knew some people at the show that had some Benamine. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's a painkiller. So we were able to inject her with a little bit of pain medication on that side of her back near that leg, and she walked perfectly for us, so that was awesome. And we were also able to relieve the pain a little bit. We also had to tattoo our goat's ears, so hi Lone Star. You might be able to see, yeah, you can still see the green a little bit. We checked over the girls to see if they had tattoos that we could read, and they didn't. So we tattooed before we left, which was stressful. And then after tattooing, girls, after tattooing, Lone Star wouldn't let me touch her for like 2 days, which was awful. I wasn't sure if we were gonna show because of that. I didn't want to put them through all of that extra stress. Obviously, both of the girls are fine now. They've been up our bums since the show. They are still our babies. Walking, we probably should have started practicing walking a lot sooner than we did, but between children and Greg's busy work schedule and everything else, we really only started making sure that we spent time on walking like a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, but really a week and a half before we went to the show. And I'll insert some clips of kind of what that looked like on not our first day, but after like our second day of trying to walk. And then I've got our third day, I think. And maybe a fourth day. And you can see where it improves each day. It does get better. They walked way better when we got there and they were in the ring than they did when they were home. And I don't know if it's just because they were distracted from all of the nice green grass that was in front of them here, and they had all of the goats around them that they knew. But when we got to the show, they walked so good. I was honestly amazed. I was so amazed. So that was our getting ready. Those are some of the things, again, that we would have been more careful with. Trimming hooves. Be really careful when you trim their hooves. Obviously, they need to have trimmed hooves, but don't overdo it, because we thought that she was going to be out of commission. We were so upset. And it was the day before, so we didn't have time to replace her, because we would have had to tattoo another goat, shave another goat, and it just wouldn't have worked out. We took one test drive with the goats in the trailer just down the road to see how they would do. I recommend a test drive just so you kind of get an idea and they get an idea of what it's like. And then also they know that they're coming back home. I think I have a video of them when they got out from their test drive that I'll include. And they ran out of the trailer, but then they ran right back in the trailer. So they obviously weren't that stressed. And then I grabbed some grain and I brought them in the trailer with me, and we sat there for a little bit. Getting ready for the show was stressful, but we did it. Then we have packing for the show. Things that we had, things that we wish that we had. We had our goats, very important. We had all of our paperwork, also very important. We made sure to bring whites. You have to wear all white when you're showing goats, or at least you do here at these shows. I believe that that's pretty standard for most shows. So we dressed in regular clothes, and then we brought white clothes that we put on before we showed, because we got so dirty when we were leaving the house. I'm so happy we didn't put our whites on to begin with. We packed sunscreen, which I didn't put on. I highly suggest putting it on. I did burn myself. I am in pain. My lips are quite chapped from being sunburnt. Chairs are important. There is, unless you brought like a bunch of goats, there is a bit of sitting down. We didn't bring any doughs and milk, so we sat down for quite a while we waited for the yearlings to come up. And food, although honestly I was so sick to my stomach that we barely ate anything. But the food was good because we had the kids with us. We brought our trimmers, which, good thing, because I wanted to touch up Milky Way's tail. And we also brought some probiotics because Greg had read up that because of the traveling, it can really mess up their rumen and their gut microbiome. So there's a lot of stress that has to do with traveling. So some probiotics helps with that a little bit. And in our last video, you can see in the clip when we arrived, I touched up Milky Way's tail, and then I gave them all probiotics, all 3 of them. Hay, a hay bag to put hay in, our own buckets for water. We brought a big jug of water in case we were in an area that we couldn't get water easily. We didn't bring our own paneling because they had that there, but in the future, our goal is definitely to get our own paneling. We couldn't keep Crunch in the panels because she was too small and she slipped right out. So we had to put her back in the trailer by herself. And luckily, with the breeze running through the trailer, it didn't get too hot. But if it was in the middle of the summer or we stayed there another day, it probably would have been too hot for her, and we would have had to carry her around with us everywhere. So bringing your own panels, I could definitely see where that could come in handy. Or even if we brought like an extra large dog crate that we could have put her in next to the girls, that would have been nice as well. I'm gonna make a list of things too because I don't have it in front of me, and I'll put it below so that you guys can go through it. Those are the things off the top of my head. I brought my camera, I brought extra batteries, all that good stuff so I could show you guys the whole thing. Grain, we brought grain for the girls. Always make sure you bring their collars, their little choker collars, their special collars. I just want to make sure that I don't forget anything. What else did we bring for you girls? I know there was more stuff, but I just can't think of it off the top of my head right now. It is still early. It's early morning. It's like 5:30. Getting there, so stressful. My stomach was in knots the whole time that we drove there with the girls in the back of the trailer. We have a rear view mirror in our car so we can see when we're backing up, and I kept pressing the rear view mirror so we could look at the girls and make sure they were okay. They did good. The drive wasn't that long. I think we were like 40 minutes away from the fairgrounds, and it took us longer to get there because we drove really slow. When we showed up, we had no idea what we were doing. No idea. We did go to an ADGA class in Bangor a couple months ago, and we met a couple people there, which was awesome. If you have any sort of like dairy goat or ADGA classes going on, or meetings or anything that you can go to going on in your area, I highly, highly suggest going to it, because when we showed up, we knew some people there that were like helping put on the show, and they came right up to us and they asked what we needed, if we needed any help, if we had any questions, and we continuously went back to those people and did ask questions and did ask for help. And if we didn't have that, the whole experience probably would have been a lot more stressful for us. So huge thank you to all of those people for being so kind and for helping us so much, because it really truly made the experience a lot better than it could have been. We set up our panels. They had the panels there. They had 3 buildings, I believe, that they were putting goats in. You can see that we're like near nobody. All the other 3 buildings were pretty much full, and that other building hadn't been touched yet, but everybody was kind of there. So we figured we'd just set up on the end of that building, and then we weren't super close to everybody else's goats. So it kind of gave us a time, some area or time to breathe and just get away from everybody, which was kind of nice. We saw Sharon there from Jumpstart Farm. She's where we got our buck Jasper. And we walked around and we talked to her and we watched her show some of her goats. And then she came up to me and she asked if I wanted to show one of her does and milk, 'cause we weren't going up until all the does and milk were done. And I was kind of like, nah. And my parents were there to help with the human children, and they're like, come on, go do it. And Greg was like, go do it, you can do it. And so I went over and she was right in front of me, and I had one of her does, she had one of her does, and what are you doing? Lone Star. Mwah. And she told me what to do. I followed her lead, and that was my first goat that I showed, which was awesome because our goat was really well behaved, and it kind of got rid of that like super yucky, I'm gonna vomit feeling that I had. I felt a lot more comfortable going out with our girls and showing. So that was awesome. So helpful. Again, being able to reach out to people in your area is so important. And making those connections with people, because really they are all so helpful. They all want to help and they want to see you do good, and it's really nice to have that and to become part of that group, so you do have that. And then we got into showing. So after I showed Sharon's goat, we waited a bit, we talked to other people there. Some people that actually follow us on our Facebook page, was just awesome. A lady that I gave some grain to one time because we had some sweet feed that we don't usually feed to our goats. Another lady that used to shop at my mom's shop way back in the day. So it was really, really cool. Crunch was first. She was in the 0 to 3 month old class, and she is recorded grade because she's Cinnamon, her mom, is right behind me, is not registered. She walked amazing. She did so good. If you watched our last video and you look at the footage, she's not screaming, she's not jumping around. She was like so professional, perfect. And I didn't work with Crunch at all. I walked her once before we showed up. I did not clip her because it's still getting kind of cold here at night, and she's just a baby, and I didn't want her to get sick. I think there was there's 2 others showing in that age group that weren't clipped. Crunch did get last in her age group. The lady had said that it was just general appearance, I believe, and levelness is the reason that she placed the way that she did. I did also notice that in all of the categories we showed it, well, just 2, but most of the categories too that we were watching, it did seem like the goats were lined up biggest to smallest, and I had the smallest goats in every class that we showed. So one of the things that we're going to be working on is maybe putting a little bit of extra weight on some of our girls so they're beefed up a little bit more. and maybe that will give them more of a chance. But yeah, she walked great. I definitely was a little bit upset that she got last, but I'm still so proud of her for doing what she did. And then we went up with Milky Way and Lone Star. Who is this? It's Sugar. Then we went up with Milky Way and Lone Star. Again, both of them walked so good. I was so surprised. They weren't pulling on us. They weren't screaming. They really did a really awesome job. And sadly, the class we were in was quite big, and the judge didn't go over specifically why she placed ours the way that she did. She just kind of generalized the last 5 does and said for just general levelness and appearance is why they placed the way that they did, which is kind of a bummer because I know that Lone Star's really level. Milky Way not so much, but Lone Star is a very level doe. So I would have really liked for her to go a little bit more into detail, so I knew exactly what I'm looking for when breeding her to a buck to improve in her kids. Is it because she was small? Is that something I can fix with maybe a heavier diet, or should I breed her to a more bulky doe and bulk up her kids a little bit, or was it other things that are going to be harder for me to fix? So, yeah, I wish that I could go up and talk to the judge. I had somebody tell me that it's frowned upon to go talk to them while you're at a show. So I didn't want to bug her, and I didn't want to sound like I'm complaining, because I definitely wasn't. I can see why our girls placed the way that they did. I just would have liked a little bit more explanation so I knew what I was looking for when breeding them up, so I can breed better kids, or kids that are going to place a little bit better. Sugar, you need to go, please. Yeah, but I think that for the most part goes over our show. That goes over getting ready, getting there, the showing part. Again, we really did have a lot of fun. It was kind of upsetting that they all placed last, but it was a really good show to go to start out, and the help that we got from everybody while we were there, and all the people that talked to us, and all the beautiful goats that we saw, was so worth the stress of getting ready and the stress of going there. And we're hoping that we'll be going to our next one next month. But if we can't afford or get the time to make it out to one out of state, then we'll definitely be going to the next in-state one. Absolutely.